In today's video, how 61-year-old Gary Vollhofer went from looking like this to looking like this and won $15,000 cash money in our Pro Physique Transformation Challenge. All right guys, today's video, quick and simple. I'm interviewing Gary Vollhofer, who won the male portion of the Transformation Challenge. Enjoy the video. All right, everybody. Well, welcome to the video today. We're going to talk with Gary Vollhofer, who just completed the 90-day Transformation Challenge that we at Pro Physique have been running. This is our second one. Won the challenge for the men. So, how are you, Gary?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you, Paul.
So let's first get into the specifics of the Transformation Challenge. Let's talk about the weight loss, because obviously I'm going to be showing some pictures of you before and after here, but what was the total weight loss from start to finish?
I think it was 37.2 pounds or pretty close to that.
Yeah, and what's amazing is it looks like you actually gained weight. If you're looking at the pictures, you know, and you know, as a bodybuilder myself, we all know that the illusion is that you lose weight and you look more muscular. But did you actually, do you think potentially, you know, put on some muscle during that time as well?
Well, I know going in, I had a pretty good base because I've been working out for about a year. I just had very unhealthy, nutritional lifestyle.
Sure.
So I was pretty strong. And going through, I did lose a little bit of my overall strength, but not much. But I think that was due to several factors. Obviously this challenge was a real challenge because of COVID and a couple other things that happened during the challenge. I had, some medical issues. I'll say it because it was hemorrhoids, but the only reason I mention it was because it was the way I planned my nutrition. I didn't get enough fiber. It was probably a little bit too high in the protein. I know all about macros, but to me, sometimes I'm kind of a perfectionist. So instead of trying to be perfect, I just wanted to slowly lose the weight. I knew all I needed was a calorie deficit, but I think I could have controlled that a little bit better, just healthier.
So do you think, did you add in more like fruits and vegetables to your routine? Were you just kind of a meat and potatoes kind of guy?
No, actually, I'm a very healthy eater, so I had a lot of vegetables. I cut down significantly on my starchy carbs, so that probably had a factor in it. I love sweet potatoes, and that's probably one of my main benefits is that I like healthy food, so I don't mind eating the whole spectrum of nutrition. In this challenge, I quit drinking, so that was my major nemesis. And I think that's why I planned before I started to lose, around 30 pounds. I knew that, 2 to 2.5 pounds a week is fairly doable. And I knew the first part would come off fairly easily because that's probably all just toxins and held up water retention from inflammation. So I was off to a good start. I had the whole 12 weeks planned ahead, what I wanted to lose every week. And I supported that by I posted it several times in the Facebook group where I put my whole plan out there before we even started the challenge. So that kind of kept me focused on it. Not that there weren't obstacles in the way of, I had a COVID quarantine one time, so I couldn't get to the gym. The gym closed down for 7 days because for health measures. So there was obstacles along the path, and I think that's more of the mental part of the challenge than actually the physical. To me, when I started, I was getting up at 7 o'clock in the morning and going to the gym. By the end, I was getting up at 4:30 in the morning and going. I just found that if I got everything out of the way early in the morning, it just set up my day perfectly for my lifestyle.
Yeah, it's something that's become, and if you don't mind me asking, how old are you, Gary?
I'm 61.
61, that's awesome. So, I'm someone, that's kind of made that transition as well. I used to be go to the gym after work kind of guy. And what I found was, as your days get longer and things take a precedence, the gym kind of gets pushed aside, the diet gets pushed aside. But if you get up early and take care of a lot of these things before most people even get their day going, the rest of the day is kind of on cruise control, right? So it just sets you up for success.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, when you get up and I like to train fasted. I kind of always have. So I'd have my big shake right after I worked out. And then, my meal was basically from whatever I had the night before. That was my lunch. And then I'd have a shake in the afternoon. And then, by the time I got home to cook supper, is like, I was perfectly on track for all my nutrition. And, getting into that habit takes a few weeks, but once you're into it, it's just routine.
Yeah.
I try and treat the whole thing like Groundhog Day. You just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, this is all good tidbits. So we provide, and you can speak to this whether you used it or not, but we provide kind of some basic nutrition plans. And this year we actually had a registered dietitian write some meal plans for everybody. They weren't specific, but they were kind of generalized. And then we provided some kind of workout plans. We provide the Facebook group and then the weekly videos. Of those things, which ones did you utilize and which ones did you find the most beneficial?
Well, I looked at them, but I had a specific plan in mind because, I like to switch it up quite often.
Perfect.
But the Facebook group was a great support.
Okay.
There were some wonderful people on there, and a lot of people asked questions that I knew answers to, so I tried to help out when I could, and the weekly or bi-weekly meetings were always great because there'd be like 20 or 30 questions already pre-posted, so you can go and read the questions and then you go and get the answers. So
Yep.
I watched almost all of those ones, and they were really good. I mean, you had a variety of individuals doing them, and I was very impressed by that.
Yeah, I mean that's something we plan to do for all the challenges. The way we're trying to do this going forward is just to impact the most amount of people we can in as specific a way as possible. So by doing those weekly live videos with all the coaches for Pro Physique, not only exposes you know you guys to us, but us to you, because sometimes as an online coach, you don't always understand what's the client needs or what the potential user needs. Now I'm someone who's on my direct messages, answering videos, questions from emails, from all directions. But some of my more inexperienced coaches for Pro Physique, they enjoyed it so much, because I think what some people miss is, as a coach or as a business that's helping people reach their goals, how rewarding that is and how fun that is. And I think sometimes we get caught up in thinking of it as work, but when you get to work with awesome people, like yourself, that are in this group, giving your time back to other people, the community that we've built is what's really exciting for me. And those Facebook groups, we keep them open. We have the first Facebook group open. We're not going to close those groups. We're going to keep one. So, hopefully you guys continue to stay in touch. I've seen a lot of people posting since the challenge ended, some of their other successes. So yeah, that's really exciting for me. So what would you kind of take away from this transformation challenge that's going to carry over now that it's over? Because the one thing I didn't want to turn this into was 90 days, race for some money, do things that are not going to be long-term beneficial, but you just try to win a contest and then you're in a worse position. So what are going to be some of your takeaways going forward?
Well, one of the things is that it was a challenge, so it was a competition, but 90 days is really only the start of good habits, and unless you follow them up, it pretty much was just a challenge then.
Right.
The lifestyle, I'm going to continue to go to the gym at 4:30 in the morning, and I think just that one thing in itself sets everything else up.
Yeah.
You're not going to be staying up late if you got to get up at 4:30 in the morning. So you're forcing yourself into your good habits. I'd like to stay in touch with some of them. There was some great members of that group, and actually there was some really awesome transformations when you look through them. It's
Oh my God.
hard choice picking them.
Yeah, the 20 top men, which I'll put in the video scrolling through here. I'm hands off with the decision making in that process, and thank goodness, because I wouldn't want to have to make that decision. But when I look through them, I'm like, how are they going to choose? And a lot of the decision process, it's not just the before and after pictures. A lot of it, we take into account the story. And I know Troy was very touched by the fact that you dealt with being in Canada. Your government. I don't even think to this day you guys are still wide open yet, right?
Yeah, no, not yet. I think we might start opening up actually today a little bit, but it's only 50% of the population has the first vaccine so far, so we're quite far behind in that part of it.
Yeah, and then you also dealt with, quarantining yourself during this time. So, to me that speaks about, I think some people think of weight loss or fat loss or getting into like a great physique. It's about picking this time when you're not going to have any obstacles, right? They go, "Oh, I'm going to start Monday after my weekend and it's going to be a great week and it's going to lead to a great month." But really it's about taking small steps, right? And just being consistent over a long period of time.
Yeah. Well, I think my biggest challenge was obviously when I had to go to the hospital for the hemorrhoids, and I only say that because they put me on all kinds of stool softeners and other stuff, and I jumped up like 12 pounds, like instantly,
Oh, wow.
popped up, and they said, no weights for at least 8 days because you can't, because it was an external one, so you can't put any stress on it.
Okay.
So at that point, I had kind of like a bad cheat meal because I could kind of turned into a kind of a whiny guy for only for a day. But it was more like it was time to refocus, and it was challenging. But obviously it was worth it in the end. But uh, it's not an easy thing to stay focused, and that was one of the things that the Facebook group helped with, because it was like, okay, well, you can quit, you can run, you can hide, or you can look what everybody else is doing, because everybody's facing challenges.
Yeah.
There's a lot of it. Some people got COVID, in the group, and
Oh, yeah, I think quite a few actually. Yeah, and
yeah,
I think,
so
the struggle I have with, as a coach, I've coached people from, lifestyle to competitors. The reason I find that the competitors are just so much more successful in their goals is that date. And the transformation challenge provides you a date. It says this is what we're going to do for 90 days. So, most of us think, hey, I can be good for one day, I can be good for 1 week. So the exciting thing for me, I go through these challenges as well. And I started the first challenge at 235, and now I'm maintaining my weight at 215 pounds. So even though I haven't, gone through the extreme measure of trying to like get shredded for the challenge, it's certainly formed my habits into a better manner. And that's really what excites me about this. Obviously when your before and after pictures are posted, people are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, like 90 days, that's impossible." And good. I want that to shock some people's systems. So, but then to hear your story that it wasn't, this wasn't this perfect bubble of a transformation where somebody was handing you your meals, you didn't have any stress along the way. That's what gets me excited, because, you know, that tells me that this is for the long term with you. Now, do you have any competition plans? Because I got to be honest, you look like a dang bodybuilder right now.
yeah, I'm thinking about maybe October, but there's lots of regional things up here, but obviously we can't go into the States at all until I get the second shot. So
Yeah.
well, it might be later this summer, but yeah, I keep it on the back of my. I mean, I have competed before, um, but this is the first time. Like when I did this challenge, I said I'm just gonna go with this walking plan. So that's one thing I followed of yours was 10,000 steps a day. But I had to keep adjusting that because there's some days when I was quarantined I couldn't go do anything, so I did more like virtual reality type stuff on the TV and
So,
you know
what's the most activity you got up to? Did you, as far as cardio or hours per day or
yeah.
steps?
I got up to just 19,500. Couldn't quite break the 20,000, but
So what does that equate to in time? How long did that take you?
yeah, just 2 hours.
Yeah, two
Yeah,
hours of walking.
yeah, and well, I had to build up to it. Remember in the beginning,
Well, because you said you lost 37 pounds, but what was your finishing weight?
it was right on 200.
Yeah. So, I mean, for a 230, 240 pound man, walking is a considerable task. People laugh when I say I just walk, but I put on a little incline and I'm breaking a sweat at 220 pounds. Like that's
Yeah.
not an easy thing for me.
Yeah. So I mean, I would walk, once a day at work and then once a day at home. And where I live in a city called White Rock, and it's on the beach basically.
Yeah.
So there's quite an incline down to the beach. So I ended up, for the last 3 weeks, I was doing probably 1,000 steps a day, like up hills,
Oh,
stairs.
okay. Walking up the stairs, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd
So
walk down to the beach and back up and down and back up and down and back up, and yeah,
yeah, well, I mean, and that's a little more enjoyable than for most people than going to a gym, right? And getting on a machine. You're actually fitting it into your like where you live, the city you live in, so you get to enjoy it a little bit more. Let's talk a little bit about your training, because obviously, putting and keeping as much muscle as you did, how many days a week were you training, and what kind of style do you train? Being 61 years old, it's not like, we're 20 years old and we never get hurt.
Yeah, well, no doubt when you get old, well, I'm not all the time when you train consistently, I think you always have little nagging injuries here and there.
Yep.
I always like to train heavier, so I'm more of a 4 to 6 rep guy, but not. So I'm doing a push-pull leg routine, but I only do it 5 days a week. So I'll do, one week I might do legs once, and then the next week they'll be twice.
Okay.
But so I just do Monday to Friday. I would always take the weekends off, for the wife and the lifestyle. I would, I still was doing too much volume. So I do the first day I would do my 4 to 6 reps, and I do 6 exercises per body part, and then the second day I would do 10 to 12 reps. So
Okay.
I would back off a little bit, but did a lot more volume than I thought I was going to do. And one of the reasons for that is that all the cardio equipment was closed down. You couldn't use anything. So, it just made it more enticing to continue to do weights.
Well, and I think anytime that you can kind of make a routine like this yours by, going to the beach, like that can be, also mentally relaxing, especially at a time that was so stressful. When we ran our first challenge through the initial lockdown of COVID, we had thought about pushing it off, but I thought, no, this is what people need. We included home workouts for that round of training and stuff, but there's some mental benefit, right? I mean, did you find that there was some benefit in your life to taking these walks and getting outside?
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that walking is kind of what saved me, because frankly, I don't look at walking like exercise. I look at it as time to kind of think and meditate and and solve all the other problems in other areas of my life. So that definitely helps. No question about that.
Yeah, I think there's a misconception that to look the way you look, that there has to be some kind of difficult component when it comes to cardiovascular exercise. To say to people like all he did was walk to get leaner, because lifting weights for me is about building muscle. You're not trying to get leaner when you're benching 4 to 6 reps, right? But the diet and the walking are essentially what strips away the fat to give you the finished product that you look. Let me ask you this: what is your goal now? Because you've gotten this lean, you said potentially competing down the year. Are you just trying to maintain where you're at until you have like a set date?
I'm going to try and stay around 215 pounds.
Okay.
So I'm trying to put on a little bit of muscle, and then because if I competed, I'd probably want to compete in both, Grandmaster and the Open. So
Okay.
the Open, I think that I could come in close to 198, maybe 195 if I trim down. So that's kind of my goal.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, anything else you think would be valuable to add to people that are, potentially considering doing a challenge, or, just kind of some words of wisdom?
Well, I think to me, it'd be like get involved with the Facebook group. Initially it's like people have motivation, but the reason for why they're doing it might not be strong enough. But if you're around the other people that are all doing the same thing and all have different motivations, it's encouraging. It keeps you on track.
Yeah.
I think one thing you could do in the Facebook group is maybe you could pin the actual dates of when the contest is over and a few things like that, just because it seems like people continue to ask that question over and over and over again.
Oh yeah, so put up some information. Yeah, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
Troy would tell you that all that information is sent in your initial emails. He gets a
Yes,
little
I know.
frustrated with all the questions he gets that he actually has answered before. But yeah, I understand, especially in a Facebook group where, we had nearly 2,000 members, so the posts kind of get pushed down rather quickly, right? So you got to kind of search for things. So yeah, it can get tough.
Yeah.
But yeah. Well, listen, Gary. Hopefully, what'd you get? $15,000. You got your cash, not too long ago. You putting that money to use?
Yeah, well, not yet. I'm planning the next steps for it.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, listen, we really appreciate the value that you added. I mean, congratulations on just what I mean is an amazing transformation. I think it's going to set the mark for the men for years to come. What was the total? 37 pounds in 90 days?
Yeah, yeah,
And then what about the waist? That's always the good one for the men. How did that change?
yeah. It went from about 39 to 3.
That's incredible. 6 inches and 37 pounds in 90 days. So congratulations. I really appreciate you taking the time, and thank you, Gary.
Thank you very much, Paul.
All right, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm gonna be interviewing the female winner. And if you guys enjoyed this type of video, I can interview second, third, and further down the line to really see how they reach their goals as well. All right, you guys have an awesome day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.